Yeah, and I'm okay with that
Okay.
if that's what you wanna do.
7 o'clock, we'll call the Barnes County North October 15th school board meeting to
Yeah,
order.
you want me to present
If we can
that?
start with standing and do the pledge of allegiance.
High school is the same.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, I mean, I'm open with different ones or tab, we could add a tab to the bottom.
Okay, Mr. Curry, you have any additions on the agenda?
If we want to add discussion on reducing the number of board members,
Jay, okay, any others?
and no, we'll just talk about next meeting date.
We'll discuss that with.
Under the superintendent evaluation process.
Yep, okay. All right. For a motion to approve amended agenda.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Cody? All in favor of approval of amended agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Next is our consent agenda. You got any question on minutes, bills, or financial reports? Anybody has? Any questions or comments?
One,
Yeah.
on the food service.
Yep.
So on the, what's budgeted on that for food supplies was 150,000.
Correct, yep.
So how much per month, or what are we at for in-school months? What should we be at? What is our goal on that? And how many?
It's 9
So it'd be
months.
9 months.
9
So
months.
it's just taking that off to 9 months, we can figure
Right,
out
yeah.
exactly what we need to do.
Yep.
And
And
looking
the
at,
expenditure report you get is for through September 30, so
Only 1 month.
Yep.
it's not October at all.
yeah,
To piggyback off that, when you send your bills for approval,
Yep,
the invoice date is one date, the check date is another. It's hitting our reports for review based on the check date, correct?
yes,
Okay, thank you. Because I noticed
yep.
food bills were higher than the expenses already in there, so they would be in October, so, okay.
Yep.
Got it, thank you.
yeah, and we'll be
It's
looking
just a timing thing.
at
Yep.
offsetting some of those special events, Veterans Day, Title I, whatever. If I can hit up some of the charitable organizations to donate to that, to maybe help with that hot lunch budget.
Any other questions? If not, we're looking for a motion for the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as reported.
Is there a second?
Second.
Jay? Roll call, Lindsay.
Mike,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
DJ,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Cody,
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes.
Okay, no patrons.
Nope.
Start with you, Mr. Curry, superintendent.
My report's in the packet on there, just a couple things to add. Just acknowledge Lindsay for completing her recertification through the School Business Managers Certification Program. And I think there's something at School Board Association for that too, isn't there?
Yeah,
believe.
At convention on Thursday or something.
For that, and then just my report, as you know, we haven't done a board retreat yet this year, which I'd still like, but it's so hard when you get into August, September with just, I mean, harvest and so many other things that possibly looking at a December or January board retreat date. If anybody thinks one would be better than the other, Mike and I are open for suggestions from any of the board members, but would still like to have one of those this year.
If you guys got any thoughts on when you'd like
I
to
would
see?
say what has worked well for boards that I've been on in the past is you pick what days work for activities at school or whatever, and then send out one of those little survey things, and whichever one has the most votes wins,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, and it's Yeah, and it's, part of it is too, I mean, depending upon the date is, I mean, are we gonna run into some just Christmas parties at places that we try to meet at or whatever else comes into play, but, we didn't know if, I mean, obviously there'll be some in December and there might be some in January, but
We're looking at either in December.
if
or
anybody
January.
had a strong preference, I guess if you would wanna let Mike know, that would be good
Okay.
for that, and then we'll get into it, next meeting date, because I have a conflict with next month's date.
Yeah. Okay. AD,
Mr. Schaefer's at the volleyball match, he had it, page and a half, couple pages in the packet. If anybody has any questions, can maybe help or try to answer some for you, because I know most of them.
okay, the one question I've got is concessions coordinator type thing.
Yep,
How did we establish, or who or how did that get established? And is it contracted, is it,
Mr. Schaefer came
Classified.
back from one of his AD meetings and brought it to me that other schools, because that's one of the biggest hassles that we've had around here since I've been here.
Yep.
Is finding someone to work hot lunch or concessions. Or if nobody does sign up for it, then who's gonna cover it? Because with our location, I think it's something we need to provide for, not only it's nice for our home fans, but it's really nice for our away teams, because where are they gonna stop? For that. So he came back and said, can we look at finding somebody to run this? Like, I don't have a problem if it's something that we need, absolutely. So Mrs. Heinze was willing to do it, and he asked me, well, you know, we were a couple matches into the season, what should we pay, you know, and he talked about this, and he talked about this, and then he brought up, well, let's just pay an assistant salary for that. Since it's not the full year, it's part of the year, I'm like, let's try it and see how it works. I'm fine with that, I mean, looking at it and knowing the work that goes into it, I personally think it's money well spent.
I agree with that. My only question is the process, because if you go by our policy, we didn't establish that position,
Correct.
and there's no budgeting for it. So I believe it
Right.
should have came here. It was not discussed, I believe, at activities, or not, to bring to us.
Right.
I'm not against the,
No,
it
I
makes
get-
perfect sense.
Yeah.
But it's just the process. I
No.
think if we got the policies, we need to follow.
Right, and looking at it, I mean, take it as a intent to hire position, Mike, a classified position, yeah, it's a certified teacher doing it. I guess if you look at it, if you want to say it's an intent, intent, technically we can do without. If you look at it as a certified position, then yeah, it should have probably been run through the board. But at the time, we
Well-
needed somebody to do it, so we moved forward. and
I'm not
did it.
arguing.
Yep, no,
What
I
I'm
get
saying is, if you read our policy, it says, we as a board authorize you to hire classified staff.
Yep,
No action of the board is necessary for that. As long as the board previously established the position and hiring is within budgetary limits. We didn't establish the position, and we have no budget for athletics. So it doesn't fit the policy, is all I'm saying.
Budget is up to the superintendent
Yeah.
to spend the money that
Right,
we've
but
budgeted. So
we
if he
did
fits
not
it into the budget,
Right.
Yeah,
that's
we
on-
just didn't, I believe we just should have established
Yeah.
the position.
Yeah.
yeah, I get what you're saying.
I'm not against it, I
No,
think it's a perfect,
yeah, no, I
I think she's
understand
the
what you're
perfect
saying.
gal to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just think if we got them policies, we need to keep following what we've
Yep.
got in place, you know.
understand.
The only question I had is, where did Lindsay end up having to put it through for?
Lindsay has no idea.
No idea yet.
So we just gotta make sure we figure out what line item we're gonna put
Yep.
that in and be consistent on it. so
Yeah,
that-
and looking at it, it'll probably run through athletics
Okay.
as a
Ms. Schaefer
advisor,
told me it was going through the general fund.
as an advisory position.
Well, the expense will probably have to go through the
Yeah.
general fund due to the bookkeeping thing. But if you can swing it from athletics as a budgetary item, as a transfer to cover whatever department that ends up in.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So did this end up being a contracted, or you just got a?
I have a
intent-
contract.
You have a contract? Is that different than classified? Okay, I'm just asking, okay.
I have a, like, just like the coaches.
It's like the coaches, though, it's not
Yeah.
as certified.
So who signs those contracts?
Mr. Schaefer, I believe, is who signed it.
Okay,
I would have to look for sure, but I believe that's who signed it. I think that's who signed the other coaching ones. I don't think you've signed them.
The coaching ones? No, I have not.
okay, okay.
Do we need to establish this position?
Well, it's already there.
It's already been filled?
I think moving forward, we just need to follow we should establish the position. That's all I'm saying, we just should follow our policies. We're, as a board, our
Yep.
two main things are financial and policy, and we didn't address either one of them in this situation. I'm not against it, I think we need this position, not saying anything that way, I think we need to follow the policy.
Well, should we create that? We don't wanna set a precedent of just letting things be created without the board ever addressing it
That's what's
either.
been happening, we've created things that we haven't established, that's our issue. We've got some other ones that have done that, moving forward, I think we gotta establish the position. I think we start moving forward and just go from there. Okay. Any other questions AD wise, before we get to reports? None? Mr. Lockton, secondary.
All right, so, first thing I had in here was congratulations to Ian Elston on being in Superintendent Baszler's student cabinet. Started his first meeting back at the end of September. We had applications out for our chapter of the Indy Honor Society. I just had an email this afternoon that we had 2 students out of the ones that qualified apply, so we'll be going through those next week. And then induction will be the evening of November 12th. Health Careers through VOTEC went on a field trip to Wapaton on October 2nd. 3 of our students from BCN attended. October 8th, Mrs. Hodek and I took Law and Justice and then one of her reading classes down to the Barnes County Courthouse and then the Sheriff's Department. We watched a little bit of court that morning, visited with the judge, the attorneys, and then we spent a long time visiting with Pat Sand at the Sheriff's Department. That was a pretty good thing, I think, for the kids to see how, the stuff that I'm teaching, how it actually works. FCCLA just got back from their District 5 Region 2 meeting in Fargo. Quarter 1 ends tomorrow, which is crazy to think that we're already a quarter of the way through the year. Dual credit English is going to VCSU tomorrow for a Spanish day. They were invited for that. Coming up, we'll have parent-teacher conferences on November 7th and ASVAB, which is one of the big parts of our military ready. What else?
Is ASVAB required for all?
So it's not directly required, but we give it to all of our juniors.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a big part of the choice ready, especially for the military
Military
ready, trying to
side.
get that same. And you have to be 2 out of 3 ready to be choice ready, so.
Got it.
And that's been one of our stronger ones looking historically, so. Professional development, September 27th, I did a web training with Power School and got all of our graduation requirements into Power School so that kids can now see 9 through 12 where they're at on their graduation progress for all of our requirements that were just updated. So all of those updates are made. I'll be leaving tomorrow late morning for the NDCL Fall Conference and be there through Friday. And then we'll have PD, a late start next week. And then I put enrollment number updates, and for cell phones, for this month, the only issue we had was that a few of our student aides in the elementary were bringing their phones down, but Mrs. Broden and I addressed that by updating our expectations for them and then having a more direct grading rubric for them, so.
Any questions, Mr. Walker? No, thank you. Mrs. Bussey, elementary principal report.
So we had our first Flashlight Friday, where 10 winners are drawn at random from their AR books that they read, and then they come down to my office and we read in a dark room for 20 minutes. And they eat suckers. Observations have started, and with that, we're wrapping up the start of the year meetings with our new teachers who are in the North Dakota Mentor Program, so they're required to meet so many times, and then I meet with them at the beginning to establish expectations. We had our first school-wide behavior meeting elementary was already meeting and Mrs. Broughton asked to join, and so I thought that was a great idea. And you saw who was involved, so the counselors, Mrs. Brin, Mr. Locken, and I, were able to meet and discuss things that we're noticing school-wide, and that's where we brought up the cell phones coming to the elementary side, and then we would kind of say things that we're noticing and see if the other side is seeing that or how we could address it. So we plan to meet every other week, to continue that collaboration and get on the same page. We have lots of upcoming events, and the Veterans Day lunch program was attached, or the flyer was attached for you guys. Once I got the wording about the sponsorship money for that, so I did add an RSVP so we can try to plan for the amount of meals. And then Mrs. Brin usually puts together a wall honoring those veterans who come. Professional development. Today we met with a spring math tutor, which was our school-wide Title I goal was math fact fluency, and we've been doing spring math every day for 15 minutes. They were able to ask questions and it seemed to go really well. All their questions seemed to be answered and she had really good feedback for us. And then tomorrow we're meeting because our Go Math curriculum, although not new to us, it is a new curriculum because it's been updated. So we had a 2-hour get into it meeting. Mrs. Brennan and I attended a leadership version of it, and it was amazing at some of the resources that we have. I almost say we have too many resources because we want to make sure we're doing things really well too, but there's an option on there. Hopefully we don't have to use an e-learning day, but they could assign a lesson from their Go Math, and students can verbally respond right on the platform. It was really cool to see. So like I said, hopefully we don't have to use it, but tomorrow teachers can ask questions and see where they are within the curriculum, just to make sure we're utilizing those resources. Foundations of Reading training, are 2 new teachers who hadn't had it. Those that graduate college come out with the qualifications they need. And so they are going to Devil's Lake for that Foundations of Reading. When we filed, what HB is that again? Do you remember? Some House bill. We're required to have all teachers trained in the science of reading. We passed that report. I don't remember, 2021 good for 3 years. So we're coming up on having to redo the report, but we should have no issues with it passing the first time because we've only upgraded and gone better. I want to thank everybody who helped with the elementary fundraising with the elementary girls basketball concessions. I listed how much was made after the split with student council, and then we heard a lot from away fans saying that they appreciated, even though it was just popcorn or just pop or just candy. I didn't want to make popcorn every time, but it was the feedback, and it was probably where we made most of the money. So popcorn was good, and like I said, they have expressed gratitude for that, the fans from other towns. And then just celebrating some days with Shali from Cheyenne Valley Special Education and Mrs. Valenta.
Questions?
Do we have any like history of like the Veterans Day, like what that costs or what you're looking for donations? Or?
I wouldn't think so because we've never kept track of.
Okay.
Prior to the breakfast bash, we tallied how many parents, well, they signed in at the front, but then the kitchen tallied how many parents ate. So we are starting to track some of that, but.
And I think we're pretty much covered for this year for the meal, I believe, I'm guessing.
For
Veterans Day.
Yeah, the John Deere Foundation is
Yeah.
sponsoring the meal for the veterans that come in, but we're still trying to get an RSVP so we don't overmake food.
Yeah.
We still want to provide a good experience without.
They went through the foundation, and that was one of the things they talked to me about to donate to.
And they're on the flyer, and then we'll have something made for them hanging when the veterans come in, and probably thank them during the program too. So we're figuring out a way to document and keep track of that, so we know or have an estimate of how many come.
Any other questions? Thank you. Mrs. Bitts?
Just a quick update. The new audio enhancement is now complete. We had just one last set of speakers that needed to go in the tech ed shop because they had ordered the wrong ones. They got out here and installed that, so we are done with that project. And everything is working great after they came in, went through and installed all the devices that had a little hiccup. So, just a little social media thing, a huge thanks to Kim, who is really good about keeping up on things and posting to our social media. She's probably better at following things too on her own Snapchat and things like that. She always kind of knows what's going on, so a huge shout out to her because she is really good about posting to our Facebook and making sure that people are connected online. We did create an Instagram account too, so I made a poster and sent that out how people can stay connected with our district. I just got done at an NDATL conference, North Dakota Association for Technology Leaders Conference. I serve on that board and presented at that conference last week. One of the hot topics I put in my update is our current student information system is PowerSchool, which is funded by the state, is going to be transitioning to Infinite Campus. The state has a statewide data modernization project that they've been working on, and just how the data flows in the state, our reporting, and how our student data talk with other systems, PowerSchool, STARS, TINET, all of these different things. And there's some inconsistencies and over a couple of years of complaints. Parties were involved in this process, and as of now, they are still in the protest stage. One vendor, which I'm assuming would be PowerSchool, protested it. So it just draws the process out a little bit. And I was on a call today with Steve Snow, who's heading the project, and at this time, we don't know any specifics as to when that transition is going to take place or exactly the process that's going to take place. He did say that he would assume that it's not going to be during the school year project, a summer project. So, and it's kind of guesstimated the school year 2026. So, you know, we have a whole another, it's not something that they're probably going to be implementing this summer, but a whole nother year. But that is not, until they sign a contract, that is not laid out there yet. So we really don't know a whole lot. And then we're going to be moving into November with, that's usually the first time our tech committee meets, and we meet a few times throughout the year. Something I want to throw back on the table is off-site filtering, so that's something I'm going to bring to the tech committee, just to get some recommendations to bring back if that's something that our school district wants to do. We have done that, and then we didn't do that. We currently don't do that. We're SIPA compliant right now the way it is, but we might want to pull up that topic again. Never hurts to revisit. Questions?
Okay, thank you. Before we bump out of communications, Lindsay had this in there, which is Mr. Curry talked about. It's an invite to attend the North Dakota School Business Manager Certification Program, graduation and recertification ceremony. It's 1 o'clock on Thursday, the 24th, out at the convention. And I probably see if I can get there, because somebody else has got me having to be at some ceremony at 4:30. Because Taylor had called me today, and there's
Did she finally? 'Cause I
she
haven't heard
called me
anymore,
today,
so.
yeah. For something of, which is a Steadfast Community Legacy of Service Award that's supposed to be out for on 4:30 on Thursday. Thanks, Lindsay. Okay, we'll roll to committee reports, extracurricular policy. What you want to start with, extracurricular?
Well, let's go policy
Poly
real
first?
quick, because
Okay.
that'll probably be
Quicker?
much quicker, because you see the
Yeah,
policies
I
on the
have
agenda.
my notes if you want me to.
Yeah, so, yeah, Jen,
So policy went through, and I'll just go in order. We went through, if we are going to hit them on the agenda, I'll kind of glaze over them a little bit. First one we went through is early graduation. You'll see that one coming.
Yep.
Minor changes, you'll see those. Second one was non-discrimination and anti-harassment. This is what, coming back to what Mr. Curry spoke about and the superintendent with the OCR compliance. So we updated what was required there to be compliant now, so we should be fine there. So that is coming also. Sportsmanship, you will see as well, didn't do a lot here, basically just added the NDHSAA wording for the ejection policy, so we'll come to that. The fourth one we looked through, and you'll see it too, is the education of homeschool students. Honestly, no change really, but we want to make sure we're compliant as it is a more prevalent and more trending thing. Fifth one was tuition waivers. I don't think there was anything on that one, so I'll cover some a little more in depth. We went through and revisited as we had this, whenever we had a whole stack of them, and we
Yep.
went through, and we all agreed we have a existing policy with the open enroll policy, and we want people to follow that, so we did not do any action on tuition waivers.
Nothing there, okay.
Good?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
The other two that we covered, that we did no action on really for the most part, was, the clean bus grant, or requirements.
The idling policy,
The idling policy for clean bus grants, if we'd
Just-
ever want down the road, we may need to revisit, but at this time, we didn't need anything to go through. And the other one was related to, guidance that the policy committee wanted to review, and our recommendations related to the preschool programming and deadlines, hierarchy of patrons versus non-patrons, children's, and things like that. And so we made no action at the policy committee, but have recommendations that we push back to the managing group of the preschool, so they can advise us, because we're not the educators, and then they'll push that back to policy.
just
if it
basically
needs
looking
to
at
be.
some hard dates,
Right.
set dates as far as,
To give all parties involved some
correct,
clear
yes.
Okay.
Which,
lines.
yep,
Yeah, with enough time for people to make the decisions, whether they need daycare beyond and things like that. So I don't think any of it was too
Yeah.
crazy, but it'll give everybody a little bit easier management, so
Okay.
I think that covers everything.
Any questions? Probably not till we get to the policies themselves. Extracurricular. Who wants to go there?
go ahead, guys, have at her.
So, the potential co-op, that's out.
Yep,
That's, I think we can accept Medina's new terms or whatever on that. I think boys basketball coaches, that's coming up later here.
yep,
Football wise, the meeting's tomorrow, correct?
but
The reorganization meeting is tomorrow.
Reorganization, okay?
But we
the
had
classification is tomorrow, but, I talked to Matt Fetch last week, and I didn't want my ears to be the only one that heard what he told me about the emergency co-op. So Mike, went into Matt's office, was it yesterday, Mike? And
Monday, yeah.
Monday?
Yep,
And Stacy was on the phone, so Matt told Mike and Stacy, Mr. Schaefer, the same thing that he told me about the emergency co-op. Just so that more ears were on it and we were all under the same understanding of what that would look like and how that process works,
Okay.
for that.
So basically, we qualify for an emergency co-op, just the way we said, we meet the qualifications.
Okay.
So we can apply, actually, from right now, all the way up to the first practice next fall. That's the window we got. We don't have to do it right, we got from now till start of football season. Apply for the emergency co-op. The emergency co-op goes through, it locks us in for 4 years. You cannot get out of that co-op for 4 years. Once you're in, that's locked for 4 years. Neither school can get you out. You're in 4 years. Costs for that is $1,000 for senior, $200 for everybody else. That's first year only, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep,
that's the, call it fine, or whatever you want to call it, to get into the emergency
Yeah.
co-op.
And if you don't have a senior, it's just 200.
It's just 200.
Yeah.
Seniors are the only ones that are 1,000, everybody else is $200.
To NDHSAA, not
Correct.
to the other school.
Correct.
That's 9 through 12, correct?
What?
9 through 12,
Or 9 through 7.
or is that 7 through 12?
That I'm not positive. we just got figures, I don't know if it was 712 or
Right.
912, I don't know
Okay.
that answer.
Yeah, that's a
Something
good
we would have to-
question to ask.
Yes.
Yeah, and
He
without,
just threw the numbers of what
Yeah.
that would be,
Okay.
but that's a good question, I don't know if that's
Yes.
712 or 912.
Okay.
Okay, the process for that is, that would be a discussion with Valley City and us. If Valley City is okay with that emergency co-op and agrees to it, it doesn't even go to high school activities. It'll be on just their consent agenda. They're just gonna say, if you both schools agree, we're good to go.
Okay.
Okay, they're gonna use then, so in this scenario, football seasons 2025 and 2026, we would be in Class A, just like where Valley wants to go. They're gonna use the fall numbers of 26. If Valley's numbers at that time are above the 150, or if that number stays the same.
correct, if that number.
If that number doesn't move, we're taking that it still stays at 150. If their Valley's numbers jump above 150, in 27 and 28, you go back to AA. There's no option. Valley could petition to the reorganization board to stay down. They could do that, but their numbers are up, they're gonna push us back to AA. And they use the fall, ain't that what you got too, the fall
Yes.
26 number?
Correct, yes.
In Matt's opinion, I guess, is he think that might be the best route for us to apply. We qualify, talk with Valley, and see, it would lock us in for 4 years.
2 years at A.
Well, they're
Well-
going to, the reclassification
Yeah, A.
on tomorrow's gonna put Valley City to A. So we would be in there for sure 2 years.
Yeah,
And
If
then
Valley's
the big
numbers go
question-
up in 26, 27, 28, pushes you back up automatic and you can't get out of the co-op.
Valley only,
Valley
Valley,
only.
yes,
Count.
yes.
so they control.
Because we're out of it in that scenario by doing the emergency co-op.
They control their division based on their numbers.
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
So it would have no bearing us being there or not, whether or not they're out of it.
No,
For 4
not, not
years.
with the emergency co-op.
What happens at the end of 4 years?
We negotiate a co-op. We're back to-
Then I think you look at
Yeah.
numbers, because right now for our numbers, our fifth graders skew our numbers. Because that class of
6 and
25,
0,
there's
56.
15 boys
In fifth
in
grade.
that. So it spikes our numbers. And if you look at the next 3 classes after that, they don't equal 15 boys
Right.
for that. So then I think after that 4 years, then you look at, assuming numbers stay the same for high school activities. If they stay at
Lines you're
that
talking.
150,
Yeah, that cut line,
whatever,
that cut line stays
you
the
know,
same.
with Valley's numbers like this, ours will go a little bit like this, and then they'll start to go like this. Then you look at, as a co-op, where will we be at in consideration to that 150 adjusted number?
So
That's-
could we meet that 150 as a co-op in 4 years? What's our projections right
We're gonna be
now?
close to it. I don't have that in front of me right now, Eric. Rob and I did put numbers, projection numbers together. I think we're in the, do you have those, Mike?
I think this is what you're looking for.
Yep, for that. So you look at, that would be your 1, 2, after 4. So you look at
The counts would be fall of 2026.
29,
22,
30,
yeah.
so you look at 29, 30, because of the, even with that 5th grade class, but now we're starting to dip, because our high is 35. For next year, we're at 28. I just counted overall students for that. That year, we would be at 31 still at that class. Valley City spikes a little bit, 5 kids, but then they start declining after that too. So if you look at total adjusted numbers now on that 5th year, it sits at 169.
And ours have stayed level for the most part, other than that little
Well,
bubble one.
that-
one
The
bubble
fifth grade. bump.
That 5th grade
Oh,
class,
yeah.
Right.
but it bumps them. I
Yeah.
mean, like I said, next year would be, our numbers in those classes would be 28. You know, in 2 years, that bumps up to 35 because of that growth, for that.
And you're
And then
gonna
it
also-
starts to trend down.
You're also gonna look in them classifications that go every 2 years. You're gonna look at what these other schools are growing also,
Yeah.
that's where they're saying that number might not be 150 in
Right.
4 years. Cause you got the
'Cause
Kindred.
Kindred's going, Castleton's going, Wapaton's a bubble team, that wants to be an A but doesn't have the numbers. Even our numbers for next year would be below Wapaton's numbers.
4 years from now, one of the bigger towns could have another school.
Correct, that's a,
Yes, for that.
what we're saying is the 4 years down, that 150 might not be the cut line.
Right,
We can't. that's
Or
a
somebody
broad
might
bubble
jump
thing.
us or what.
it is, yeah.
So under the emergency co-op, for the next, for what it affects
Yeah.
right now, they're just looking at Val City's numbers,
So-
not combined.
If you go with the emergency
So-
co-op,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, and if you look at valleys, and I'll give you adjusted numbers, because that's what they look at. Like, just valleys next year is 141. Valleys 26, 27, 145. 27, 28, 146. 28, 29, 145. That following year, 143. So projected numbers, Valley is below that 150 mark the next 4 years.
That's taking current enrollments and moving them to,
Correct.
that is not
Yes.
counting for adding or
No.
subtracting
No.
move-ins, move-outs.
That's just
It's just-
taking
it's
current
just
enrollment
movements.
and moving them along.
So if we do an emergency co-op and BCN is not counted from their numbers, but families choose to switch schools, they're counted as Valley City students under Valley City counts.
As long as they go between Valley City and Barnes County, they're counting against, or they're, yes, if they go to
they go
Valley
to-
City, they will count against
Valley
the
City
co-op.
total.
They'll go against
Or
the,
towards those numbers, yes.
yes.
Whereas
If
before,
we,
yeah.
you're
if they
saying if
moved.
one of our kids moved.
Yep,
They open enrollment.
It hurts.
go into-
If they open
that's-
enroll, it hurts
that
us.
scenario, yes.
it
in
hurts Valley
football.
City.
well, it hurts Valley
Well,
City and
and
us.
us.
Well, but our
Yes.
BCN numbers are counted for 4 years under the emergency
Right.
co-op. That's all I'm saying.
Yep,
The Valley's gotta agree to the, we can't just agree to, both schools
Correct.
have to agree to the
Correct.
emergency co-op.
And does that come to an official vote of the school board, or how is that determined?
I would guess it'd be a
Guess it
school
would.
board vote from
Yep.
each school, yes.
And that is something, but we know that on their agenda, when that's gonna happen?
no,
We haven't applied.
we
We haven't
haven't,
even applied for it yet.
we haven't applied for it and we haven't,
Well, you've applied to move, stay with and move down,
right.
is what you've applied.
Yes, but they're not even going
Will-
to look at that
No.
because of the non-co-op and the idea of the emergency co-op.
We have to set up time to visit with Valley City. It's gonna be between us and Valley City to sit down and talk about it, see where they wanna go.
Who's us? Our extracurricular?
I would guess administration or whoever we wanna have it to start with, yes.
Yeah, I mean, because it's, hoping that what we've been told is that they want to work with us and they want to keep the co-op and do whatever they can. If this is truly the best option, which according to Matt, it is the best route to go, and we take this to Valley, I would hope that they would agree to it.
How did we make it till today and not know this was an option?
No, this has been discussed before. We just didn't know that.
No, it hasn't.
Yeah.
It's never been spelled out that this could be
Oh, it
done
hasn't been
without
spelled
going
out.
to the North
This is
Dakota.
only football too, right?
This is only.
Right, this is only
It
football.
doesn't take
But
care of the
every
baseball.
time this was brought up, it was pending approval from the athletic association, and that's not true. Athletic
This one,
associ-
correct, it is not.
How did we make it till now without knowing that?
What's that? Because Matt, in talking to Matt before, he didn't know where our numbers were going to be.
Does
If
it
our
not?
numbers were below the 150, it wouldn't have been an issue. We would have just co-opted and moved on.
But
And
we all
with
knew
it.
the numbers were gonna be over.
Not the,
150.
they're not getting the official numbers from DPI till
Right.
tomorrow,
Yes.
Wednesday, with the reclassification. They have not got the numbers yet.
So is Val City aware of this knowledge then?
They worked out the numbers together.
I
We
know,
worked
but-
out these.
No, I'm asking, are they aware of the terms, what Matt is saying?
They're not, I'm not gonna say they're not aware of it.
They've not been
Cody-
approached about it, no.
I have not, or Ms. Stacia have not talked to, like, Josh or Rob about this scenario with them. Would I believe that they're not aware of it? No, because Rob's on the classification committee. Rob and Josh both signed off on the letter that I sent to high school activities 2 weeks ago about the possibility of opting down if we were a co-op. And that's where Matt called me and said, here's what I think your best option is, Andy.
And like he said, when we were down there Monday and talking, they don't
Yeah.
get the numbers till tomorrow. That's why the reclassification meeting is tomorrow, when they have official DPI numbers. Which they haven't had yet. They don't have, they've got just estimates. They gotta work off DPI numbers.
Right.
With all the weighted numbers or whatever you wanna call it, with the free and reduced, that they will get that on Wednesday, he said. They get it tomorrow.
So Valley City had to end our co-op to go Class A.
Correct.
First
Correct.
thing they did was vote to end our co-op, so
Yep.
they could go Class A.
Yeah, because if they wanted to drop down, they could not do that with us because of the number.
Because our count's like 33, right? Our weighted count is like 33.6 or something like that. I'm pretty sure I can.
Anyway,
That's what it said in there. I have a different weighted count than what
It was
they
above
have,
the
but
150, they could not
either way.
drop down
Yes.
without voting us out of there, taking.
Yeah, we're 33.66 on the current.
And I don't get how we qualify for this emergency exemption now, and this has never
Because,
been discussed. as
because
being
we've
an
got
option
back
before.
from the other places that we've got enough that said they won't take us. Some different things that makes us qualified for an emergency exemption. We've had no from
Yes.
Griggs County, we've had no.
In my
from-
letter,
Yeah.
I stated that Griggs has told us no, we weren't going up to 11 net. Hope Page has told us no. Maple Valley,
Maple
which
River
is,
said no.
had said no for that.
So we have
That's
a-
where part of it came from, was our options are very limited.
But there is another option. So
Yes, there is.
how are we
Yeah.
able to do this when there still is another option?
We,
I mean, I guess,
Yes.
how certain are we that this
Yes.
possibility is real? Because it doesn't seem like this is the way it's
According to
been explained this entire
what
time. that-
Matt Fetch said, which, I mean, he's in charge of that group, that this is our best option and this is the route, if we want to continue with Valley
That-
City, that we need to go.
that's the discussion we have here. Do we want to try to work and stay in the Valley City Co-op? And if that's not what we want to do, then that's not an option. We don't even go any further.
Right,
No, our only other option is Jamestown.
Yes,
yes,
But there is that option.
yes, there is.
yes.
I don't think anybody really wants that option.
I think that's where we're at now. That's why we haven't
But
gone
if-
the next step. We've already decided which way we want to go. Do we
But-
want to look at this option?
What this is gonna do is if we come out and say that there's this opportunity, and then this falls through, it's gonna cause mass confusion and everyone's gonna be madder than hell again. And if this does,
If we go either way,
well,
we
no,
can
I
say-
mean, if we explain that this emergency co-op is a thing,
is an option.
is an
Yep.
option,
Yep.
which is a wonderful solution to this problem. But for one, if we knew it happened this whole time, why didn't we explain this months ago
I
and keep
don't think-
everyone from getting pissed off about this? And for
Yeah.
two,
I don't-
if we come out and say this is an option and it doesn't happen, we're gonna look really foolish about it.
Yeah, but you can't just say, we're not gonna do anything, we're not gonna talk to any other school and say, we're just gonna form an emergency co-op.
So
No, you have to at least extend or reach out to other schools before you can just go down this road, Eric.
It just
That's
feels like
why-
a lot of
Are we
if
using
this
the
was
same
the plan the whole
terminology?
time, it just wasn't being explained right away.
I don't think this was
I
the
don't-
plan. This was just from what
And
came
it
from
sure
the.
looks like this was Valley City's plan.
Wait a minute, wait a minute.
Oh, no.
What was the
no.
hardship discussion we had like 3 months ago? Is that the same?
That was, the hardship was the emergency co-op.
So we
That's
talked about
what-
hardship before.
Hardship was the wrong word to use, emergency
the emergency
co-op
co-op.
was the correct
I was
word.
gonna say, 'cause
Which
this
was talked
all
about
sounds
a month ago or
familiar.
whatever,
Yeah.
when Matt initially had said something to me
Got it.
about it is, after it was printed wrong in the paper,
Right.
Matt said I corrected the reporter and said emergency
Got it.
co-op.
Cause I'm like, I feel like you said there was this safety valve before, but we had to go through steps to even potentially have that safety valve option.
Right,
Okay.
yes.
And that's what we got when we got
Okay.
the denials from some of these other schools.
Got it.
But without even reaching out to some of these schools, then, I mean, these other options aren't even, they're not even gonna look at them, they're just say, well, you didn't do anything, so
But would it have mattered if Griggs County would have said they'd take us?
it
Yes.
might have,
Possibly,
yes.
So then how does it not matter that Jamestown is saying that they would take us?
Because we've got 3 that say no.
But we.
So they're
So
saying
that's-
that meets.
That
the-
was kind of
It's-
what was implied the whole time, was if there is an option, we'll have to take it. The emergency would only work if there are no
Yeah.
options.
It also takes into consideration, like I put in my, the high school activities is about, providing opportunities to students, providing the best opportunities to students. That's what they supposedly go on, Eric, for that. So, Greg, an option, a viable option, yep. Hope Page, viable option, could have been for us. Jamestown, Valley City obviously is the best because that's who we've been with. That's who we currently co-op with in other sports. Even though we do that with Jamestown as well, but that's a whole, it's a little bit different level. And the commitment and the explanation to the commitment, I'm not sure if we have that. The number of kids that we kick out for football. I talked to a person on the classification committee today, just about that number too, that I think he believes it too, that people need to look at, how many kids are you actually having that are going out and participating in these sports? For that, because you can say, I have 100 kids in grades 8 through 11 or 7 through 10. If 3 play football, that doesn't mean squat for that.
It's like using our number in the 30s and we send 4.
Correct. Yes.
Well, what
For
can
that.
we do to finalize this as soon as possible then? Because this seems like the best option, I
Yeah.
think, for everybody at the school, if we could stay the way it is. But how do we finalize this and be done with it?
We
As
reach
soon as
out
possible.
to Josh and Rob, and we have that sit down with them and explain this, and basically say, I mean, you guys said you've wanted to do what we can to keep this together. Are you willing to take this to your board and approve this?
And at that point in time, will we get notification of when that'll be on their board's agenda?
Well, I would think
so.
Josh and Rob would tell us that, yes, we'll take it to our board on X
Because
date or whatever.
just with the
Yeah.
co-op alone, I would say 75% or more of the people from Valley that I've talked to said, we didn't even know they were ending the co-op. We never wanted that to happen. So either that's true and the board was very deceptive on how they did it, or they're just saying it. But this way,
Right,
if we
yeah.
can say,
Get the word out.
here's when they're gonna vote on this, if you really feel that way, then talk to your board members beforehand.
Right.
To make sure that the community has some input in what the school
And
board's actually
what you're
doing.
hearing, I hear the same thing you do, Eric, but the other part of it, they're looking, oh, I didn't realize that moves us down also, so that changed some of their thoughts. If it was all
100%.
status
Yeah.
quo, they're, oh, yeah, why do we keep, but, oh, you mean we're moving down a division, yeah. Oh, I'm looking at it differently. So I mean,
Yeah.
most of them don't understand the change of classification either.
And most of
But
the
if
people.
And that wouldn't come out till tomorrow when they make the classifications.
Right.
But if this removes our numbers from the equation, there'd be no reason not to let it continue. I don't see
The only hiccup could be if Valley thinks they might have a little bump in the 2026 numbers, it puts them back up and us back up for 2 years of double.
You
But
mean
they
if
don't
we-
take
But
our
our numbers
numbers.
don't count.
But just their numbers,
It's
but it
just
takes,
theirs.
I'm saying it puts us
So,
back up too.
whether they get bumped or not, it has nothing to do with our numbers.
No,
Correct.
not the emergency, if they
No.
agree to
But
that.
So if they
we
do
have to
not
be
agree
willing
to
to
the
take that risk
emergency,
with them.
If they do not agree to emergency co-op, it doesn't work for us.
It's done.
It's done.
Then our option is Jamestown.
But
Then our
if they
option
do
is-
not agree to it, and their numbers go up over 150 in
That's-
2
They
years,
go
they're
up.
still up.
They're-
Correct. They're
It's not
still
like
up.
they're in it for 4 years if they don't do the emergency
No.
co-op. They're
We just
still
started.
only
Their numbers-
guaranteed for 2
We,
years.
we are the only ones guaranteed 4 years with Valley wherever they
No
are.
matter what class.
Wherever
So
they're at.
Wherever their division
Their
is.
classification is only set for 2 years at a time regardless.
Correct.
That's the football program.
That's a football
Period.
That's all the
classification.
football's
It's on a
every 2
2-year
years
plan.
anyway.
So in another year and a half, they will have the same classification meeting, and they will look at the enrollment numbers again, when DPI comes out and they will place people in
Different
divisions.
spots.
But that's why they have that opt-down date of October 1st.
And they have opt-up, some opt up, and that changes where the levels are too. Some teams opt up. Castleton opted up, Shanley opted up when they hooked with
Yep.
Oak Grove this year, because otherwise Oak Grove couldn't play, they opted up. There's a lot of that opt-up, opt-down stuff every couple of years.
So tonight, are we looking at for a motion or a recommendation to move forward, or what are we looking at here tonight?
I guess more of a recommendation to,
Right.
if we
I
wanna
would
look at.
recommend to reach out and get an answer from Val City as soon as possible, is my recommendation.
That's what we got as an option that we didn't know
It's our
about.
best option right now, so.
Right now, it looks like it, yeah.
And the sooner that could get finalized, the better.
Or at least reach out and get an answer from them.
Yeah,
So the NDHSA numbers that are out for football right now in preliminary divisions that were updated September 26th, there's 24, 25 teams above the line, and they need 10 teams per division for AA and AAA.
Right.
So there's already, and Valley City right now is counted below the line. So
yes.
if that trending happens with the bigger cities going more urban, more kids, blah, 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 in 2 years, your line may be adjusted if
And
they
that's
don't want.
what we
And-
talked
So,
about, that line
If
might
you're
change.
watching this stuff happen, what we're talking about is all the crystal ball,
Yeah.
but, I mean,
And if anybody in
the risk is in 4
Fargo,
years.
Minot,
We might be
Bismarck's
back.
The
add
risk is in
another
2 years to go
school,
up for the last.
and they're gonna be up
That's
in
not
one
our
of those
risk.
top
No, but I
divisions.
mean, the risk of
The
moving
risk for
division.
BCN school football
Is 4
program right
years.
now
Yes,
is we roll the dice on the emergency co-op. If it gets in, we're stuck 4 years, we ride the bus.
Yep,
Yep.
In 4 years, we're back at the table having the same conversation.
Yep.
That's the
Yep.
risk.
for our side of it,
And
yeah,
I'd
this
say
locked us for 4
At
years.
everything I've looked at and what we already do in partnership with Valley City for Cheyenne Career and Tech that we're trying to build, and Cheyenne Education and how many teachers we come from Valley City, the kids that are already in the program and what they've built there through Thunder and junior high and so forth, I think it is a no-brainer, as Eric already said, that we do this. So I think we have to take a shot. And we'll have to figure out the funding to do it when we get there. For the
yeah.
dollars for the emergency
Yeah.
co-op application. So,
Yeah, we're looking at a consensus to make the conversation with Valley City.
I think it needs to be reached
Yeah,
out to
which-
go forward.
I
Kind
think
of
you
was
guys.
the
There's-
plan
I think
moving
the
forward
board is
anyway.
planning, yes.
Yes,
Okay,
through the
There's other things
extracurricular
I've
committee, and
got
if
on
there was a
mine.
way,
If they accept it, I
Yes.
got some other stuff to think about, but
yeah.
yeah, I think we need to reach out and see what's, if they'll let us, if they want us.
And Mr. Schaefer and I will set up that meeting and have that conversation with Mr. Johnson and Mr. Hunt.
Okay.
And as long as Valley City approves it, there's no approval needed from the athletic association.
what they said, will go on their consent agenda. They still have to look at it, but they said it will go on their consent agenda, and they're gonna look at both schools, agree to this, why are we gonna stop it?
Right.
So that's coming from Matt, that, yes, that he believes if both schools agree, it's gonna roll through. Yes.
Basically, it's in Valley's hands,
Yeah, it's a,
Yes,
pretty much.
yes.
okay. Any other questions on extracurricular?
Is there anything else on extracurricular?
Those were the 3 topics that were.
Yeah.
Those are the main ones,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Nothing on unfinished, new business superintendent evaluation. Supposed to be done by 15th of November. He's not around at that time. We've talked a little bit about, for one thing, we talked about, there's 10 topics on that evaluation, which is a lot. We talked about maybe doing 5 in November, 5 topics for the March one. He would do a
Self-eval.
self-evaluation. We could respond to that. We're still gonna have to score it, 1 through 5, for those areas. But because of him being gone, and I really would like him to be here to respond or whatever when we come back, we're looking to move that November meeting up a week, because then we could cover all the dates and still get it done according to Century Code by November 15th. Want to add anything to our conversation?
Nope, so it basically, both of them would be my self-evaluation for November and for March. I would do the first 5 performance areas, November, the second 5 for March. just like I would do in the last couple of years. I did all 10 of them for November, and then you, for the second one, had to go in and rank and do everything else for that. The expectation, at least from me, was even though I go in and I make, the self-evaluation, the self-reflection comments, the idea is I still want board comments on there as well. I mean, yes, you can give me the score or whatever, but I take a lot from the comments that you guys put on there. So basically, that would be your job. You would make the comments. You wouldn't have to come up with the whole other part of going through that system and doing all of that stuff.
Instead of one topic where we
Yeah.
had multiple scores,
Right.
we're gonna have a score for topic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So you're talking moving board meeting from November 13th to November 6th?
Correct.
That's 3 weeks out.
Yep.
Can people manage their homework in 3 weeks?
Well, it's half of what it was before.
I know, I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
Yeah,
3 weeks.
We had that
It's half
discussion
of what it
too.
was before, yes.
Mr. Curry would have to get that out, and we'd have to get it back. It's less to compile. So we think that 3-week time frame would work.
So do you need a motion to move the board meeting date? Because those were pre-motioned before.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
I motion to move the board meeting from November 13th at 7 o'clock to November 6th at 7 o'clock.
I'll second
Second.
that.
All in favor of changing that next month's meeting date, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So then, Mr. Curry will put the first 5.
Yep.
He'll get some self-evaluation to that.
By
Wait.
Monday, the 21st?
What's that?
By Monday, the 21st? Are we taking the week off of your time to fill it out, or off the week we have to fill it out?
Well,
Just teasing.
6th, so that's
Wednesday, the
Tuesday.
23rd? Or Friday, the 25th?
I could have it done by the 23rd.
Okay, so you'll have it out by the 23rd. I get her back by at least, see what's
Friday, the
this-
1st?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what date of Friday? Back to me.
And this is coming from you?
He will send it out
To us.
to all the board members with this.
Once I finish my self-eval on the first 5, I will kick it out to all the board members
Yep.
for
And
you
then
to
it
go
goes
through it
to-
and comment.
Then you will
On
return
there.
it to me by the 1st, so I can compile it for the meeting on the 6th.
To your email, MJ Schwer.
Yeah, yeah.
And text him and make sure he gets it, because he doesn't get all of his emails.
Well, from this, ones I ain't getting sometimes is from the school with attachments. But no, this one came right away this month, so. But yeah, so that would be the plan, because then we can meet all the century code requirements and everything else. And I think it might be a little more streamlined, and we're not having to deal with 10 at a time. We're gonna hit all 10 areas, we're just gonna hit 5 and 5.
And kind of when we started, if we go through the year and don't like it,
If we
then
don't like it,
change
we might change her again next year. Okay, so we're moving her to the 6th, and that's the process. Mr. Curry will get it out and then make some comments, and it'll be just the box to score each one of them, 1 through 5. Okay? Unclaimed property. See, you have something
Yep.
here.
So I don't know, saw something about checking unclaimed property again, and I was checking it for myself and decided to check it for the school. And ran across 4 more items that were out there in our name, 3 of which are from Eco ATM LLC, which I'm not 100% sure what that is. That are $5 to $50 each. And then something from O'Reilly Auto Enterprises for $5 to $50 each on that one too. So I just need an authorization to collect that, and I can just send in this form and then the forms that Mike has to see what they send us.
I'll make a motion to have Lindsay send in
For your
the
unclaimed
request.
property. Is there a second to that?
Second it.
Tyler? Roll call when you're ready.
Cody,
Yes.
DJ,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
I did not intend for those to be in order, but they just worked out that way. Not very good at that.
Right. Okay, policy GDAA, which is the early graduation. And it's amended.
Basically, we got rid of the by the junior year part of it. And just so everybody is aware of this, and it was no different than on the other one, this does not come back to the school board. Mr. Locken makes the recommendation after meeting with the student, the parent, the counselor, whomever else. He brings that recommendation to me, and I approve or deny, just so we're very clear on that.
Yeah.
Moving forward for it, but then we got rid of that junior year in there as well. But like I said, that other part did not change, I just want to make
It's
sure we're
just the-
clear on it.
Just the junior year part.
Yes.
Okay.
I move to amend the policy GDAA early graduation on first reading and waive second reading to expedite the policy adoption process for board policy BDA.
Is there a second to the graduation policy amendment?
I'll second that.
Any other discussion?
Just
No?
the discussion
Okay.
is, we ultimately leaned back on state standards on this. So these standards are from the state on what is in that policy, not secured, or not set by the school.
Yeah, and
Just so you
Mr.
guys
Locken
know.
looked at the policy and agreed to it, and we kind of had the discussion that, I guess, who are we to tell somebody that they
They put in
don't
the
want their
extra
kid to
work.
graduate early?
Yep, so
I
just so
guess-
you guys knew,
yeah.
because that was a question that we asked when we were reviewing it.
Any other discussion? Not Lindsay, roll call.
DJ,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes,
Eric,
Yes.
Cody,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Okay, D is policy AAC, non-discrimination.
And this comes from the civil rights visit, but in here, it just, there was no email address of the person to contact for Title IX or 504 or the non-discrimination, so emails had to be added. Plus for 504, we had building principals, which it is the counselor, it is Sarah Anderson, who is that 504 position, so we had to add, make that change and then add emails to that so people know who to contact if there is an issue. So that's the change we had to make for this policy.
I move to amend the policy AAC, non-discrimination and anti-harassment on first reading and waive second reading to expedite the policy adoption process for board policy BDA.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on that one? Good question, please. Hearing none, roll call, Lindsay.
Eric,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Cody,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes,
DJ.
Yes.
Okay, E is policy ABCB, which is the sportsmanship.
And I did run this one by Mr. Schaefer also after we had met as a committee, but these rules will include the NDHSAA spectator ejection policy for that, so we did add that to this policy for that, and if you've looked around in our building, those are hanging up on the walls outside our gymnasium. And then changed would be in the third paragraph, just, we will enforce these rules at events, and then at a minimum, that spectator ejection policy will be followed. Is pretty much the only changes or additions we made to this policy.
I move to amend policy ABCB, sportsmanship on first reading and waive second reading to expedite the policy adoption process for board policy BDA.
I'll second that.
Second by Cody.
I got a question on that. So when somebody's ejected, is there any, I mean, is that for that game only? It's
Three.
Three.
Of that sport, or for the next three of that. Yeah, so,
We had a lengthy discussion.
we did have a lengthy discussion, but you take football. I mean, if you got kicked out of a football game, you could miss, half the season, because football only plays every Friday. And if there's a bye in there, you're gonna miss a lot of the season,
And that's
For
home
that.
games?
and away,
Anywhere.
And away.
NDHSA participation.
home or away. So volleyball, I said, our next three matches are away, all away, those are your
So we
three
did
matches.
define it specific to that sport.
Yeah,
Okay.
for that, so.
And who makes that call?
Who
Athletic
gets
director.
ejected? If an official ejects a fan, policy kicks in. One of the game officials, and that's usually where it comes from, is a game official. If a game official kicks the fan out, this policy kicks in. If Mr. Schaefer, myself, Mr. Locken, Mrs. Bussey, If there's a person in the stands being awful, swearing, doing whatever, and we walk up and say, knock it off or you're gonna be out of here, and they don't, we eject them, this policy kicks in for that. And then the process after that is more difficult because somehow if we're on the road, you have to notify the AD and, how are they gonna know who it is? From what people have seen, and it's already been used 3 times this year, twice in football, once in volleyball, for that the home fans on the road will rat that person out quicker than anybody else. So, is what they've seen, so that's how people get notified on the road who it is.
And is there a policy on ejecting someone? Is it just on your discretion? Is
On
there
your-
one warning and you're out?
No, it's on your discretion. Like a game official, which we hire, we don't control, if they kick somebody out,
Then it goes in effect.
Then it
I've been
goes
at a
in
game
effect.
where I watched an official point at Mr. Wilson,
Yep.
and he walked over and kinda did his best to embarrass the guy, and he shut right up
yeah,
and never said
and
a
that's
word.
usually the way it works. Is a game official goes to the host management and will either say, go talk to that guy, tell him to shut up, or they may tell you, I want that guy out of here. We're not playing until he's out or she's out.
Sure.
Then they're out.
Okay.
Yep.
Roll call.
Tyler,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
DJ,
Yes.
Cody,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes. F is policy, FDA is education of homeschool students.
This one was on our agenda because it had not been reviewed since 2017. And with the influx of homeschool students, we just thought we would review it. No changes were made, so that's why, and you can just do this on one reading. All we're doing is reaffirming that this policy is still good the way it's written.
I move to reaffirm the policy FDA, education of homeschooled students.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Lindsay.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Cody,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
DJ.
Yes.
Okay, G's, boys basketball coaches.
We had 4 apply. After it didn't work out before, we had 4 apply, all from UJ from Jamestown. Unfortunately, one of them had to back out after he thought about it, just wasn't gonna work, so we interviewed all 3 of them, which, I don't know, coincidentally, all 3 of them play football at UJ for that. So we offered the head position to Dawson Schmidt. He is a senior at UJ. I've even talked to Mrs. Bussey, he's doing a student teaching next semester. I'm hoping he would like to get placed out here.
We signed the MOU yesterday.
Oh, did ya?
So
Okay,
he's gonna be
Fourth
student
grade.
teaching out here?
Yes.
yep, so which will be great to have him out here, even working with our kids for that. So he has accepted the head coaching position. And Tanisi Kapan accepted the assistant coaching position. They are young coaches, but a lot of guys who coached were young at one point when they started too. Super interviewed well, nice guys. I think they're gonna be an asset to our program.
So what do we need from this then?
Well, if we're gonna go by, that's what I was wondering from before, are we going to approve these? Or how are we gonna do it?
That was my question. We don't
Because-
approve other ones.
What's that?
We haven't brought any other coaches. ones
Well,
to
that's
board.
just that. That's what because we didn't approve our junior high coach, we
Nope.
didn't approve our elementary coach,
No.
for that,
The
so.
precedent has been if there was a, the athletic director, because that's a contract negotiated thing, right?
Not
Or not,
negotiated.
not negotiated, but school board directed, right?
Yep.
But if it's just set to a standard, I don't think the board has ever voted,
We haven't for these.
Yeah,
so,
so,
I mean, I
Then
like
it's-
that we're reporting.
then it's an FYI for you,
'cause I'm sure we
but they
all
have
feel
signed
like
their
we
contracts.
10,000 questions.
What was
but-
their pay?
Regular pay of what a head coach and assistant coach should get paid,
So I guess the only
off the
issue
negotiated
is,
agreement.
Based on,
sorry.
I don't know the
Right, so
dollar
that-
amount.
The only
either,
issue
but-
we got where my still question is, if the school's making a contract, who is signing them?
Yeah,
Now, I don't know if that should be the AD.
The AD is-
Who do you think?
even though the AD is the one who would eval those
Yeah.
people?
But I mean, every other
Yeah.
is there
No, yeah.
continuing contracts with these, or how do they work?
Yeah.
If you got a
It's like an
contract?
intent with
Yeah,
coaching.
it is
It
like
depends
an
on what you're
intent.
giving, is
Right.
it, is a work agreement, is it a I mean,
Yeah.
what are we
Terms
putting
of
on?
We call it,
Situation.
I mean, we call it a contract because it's binding then for both people. Is it a continuing contract like a teacher? No.
Okay,
It goes from year to year.
good.
They don't have any continuing contract rights. Coaches don't, for that. It's a yearly process. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know which word you want to use it. Like I said, we use the word contract just because it kind of covers us and it covers them. Is it truly an intent to hire because there's no continuing contract rights? Very well could be for that. But an intent to hires, you can quit or get fired at any time without any reason.
And I think
that,
just to
so,
clarify,
yeah.
like Jennifer's right, we have set numbers for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's the other stuff that hasn't got anything and hasn't been established. I think them, the things that gotta come
Yeah.
before us.
I would disagree. We gave him the budget, he's gotta fit it in his budget.
But it doesn't fit our policy, then we gotta look at our policy.
No, the positions I agreed, but the budget part, we gave him the budget, he has to fit it in the budget. This is where the
But
board
if
has
we-
never, the
well-
board has never, in the time that I've understood, held anybody to the budget. So if you have to stay in your budget, that's the teeth that a board is supposed to hold.
Correct, but we don't have a budget for, we're holding, pretty much, not holding, whatever you wanna call it. We've taken, so we put budgets and everything else, we put budgets on the kitchen now,
And we have budgets on their salaries,
yep.
and that's
But
the
we don't have
budget
any-
the kitchen has to hold to.
But we
If
don't have
somebody-
any budget for athletics.
Right, but if somebody in the kitchen quits
True.
and he
We have
rehires,
$85,000
He has to
budget
fit it
for
in the
athletic
budget.
salaries, for
For
activities.
salaries, yes.
Yeah,
okay. He has to fit it in his budget. That's how our board.
Okay, well, I'm just looking at the,
I know,
what
I'm
the
just
policy,
saying,
yeah.
that's what I think is the understanding.
And
When
that's
you guys got a
something
budget, the
I
board has
personally would
go
like
after
to
it.
see negotiations committee look at
The
is
whole
that
realm of it.
extracurricular
Yes.
salary and that whole scale on that. I
Yes.
think we need to look at that and possibly do something different with it.
I'm on the same page. We've had that and we've got away from it, and that's what's causing a lot of the issues.
Correct. Yep.
So no, I don't think we need any motions
Yep.
on this at all, in my
So-
opinion, for these coaches.
I do like the communication though to the board, because I'm
Yeah.
sure all of you have gotten 18,000 questions on, did you hire a coach yet? Did you hire a coach yet? So I do like that, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And yeah, I appreciate Mr. Schaefer's due diligence and seeking out and getting these guys in and getting it done, so look forward to the season.
Okay. Now we have the change of date of late starts. We're adding to and removing the one in February.
Yeah, Mr. Locken and Mrs. Bussey, with rolling over to Marzano, just with other stuff, like to add a couple dates. We were, possibly we're gonna go 2 for 2, but in January, I have Pat Sand coming in already to go through some emergency situation training, with the staff. That's why the 2 for 1, on this, and I just, whether approved or whatever, need to move forward, but hopefully approved. I don't think people have a big issue with it as long as they have time to make plans for it. So that's why, I have it on this agenda to hopefully, like I said, be approved so that we can let our patrons know that we're adding one. Why not October? Because they already have,
We had a contract signed with somebody
Yeah.
to,
for
that
that one. Because in looking at Marzano, and is that both of them or one of them?
both of them,
Yeah.
because, yeah, we want them to work together in determining priorities for the district as a whole. And
Yeah.
that's the only
2-hour
time
late
we can
starts.
get them to work
What
together.
are the dates?
Both are 2
Both are
hours.
2-hour late starts, yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Motion to change the late start dates to November 13th and December 11th and remove February 12th.
I'll second that.
Second by Cody.
Should I edit this calendar? Would that make a difference so we can update it or no?
Yeah, we could edit it and put it on the school website.
Okay.
What,
think
so what actually is happening during these late starts? What are you guys going over? What's,
We went to a training in Grand Forks, and so, I shared the PowerPoint, and I saw you message back, but we planned, typically we did everything separately for it, so now that we got a new teacher evaluation, we're pairing up high school teachers and elementary teachers to go through and prioritize the elements that we're focusing on as a district.
It's just getting the teachers more familiar with the new evaluation process.
But
and-
they're determining
Yeah.
what we're focusing on.
And our first one, Eric, the one that we already had, we did, Pat Sand was in and we had a BERT, our emergency management team had met, and then we had met with the whole staff and went through some protocols and where our gaps are in our systems. Because so far we've had a fire drill, tornado drill, and a fire drill with evac down to the shop. So we're trying to get back into that BERT and be more conscious of safety and security within our building and looking as far as where we have gaps for that. And then they have some restorative practices,
Well,
correct?
feedback in the past was that we never did anything as a school, like as a pre-K-12 school with staff, and it's extremely he has Mrs. Heinze covering tomorrow, so I can meet with our shared staff even, and so it's extremely difficult, so when we're doing something as determined as a district, those late starts is like the only way we can get them
the only way.
together.
Get all the
So,
teachers
emergency
together.
management,
Restorative practices,
restorative
Marzano
practices,
framework
Marzano
twice,
for teacher evals, and
and then
and the
Alice
only time that
safety
those
training.
can be done are during the school day?
that's for what we have set in our calendar, yes.
Because we took out the PD full days during the year.
Yeah.
Because I mean, these appear that it's a convenience for the school or it's a convenience for the patrons that go to the school. And by having more late starts, it's choosing the convenience for the school over everybody else. Because it's an inconvenience for everyone else.
That's why we want to get the information out there in time so they can make
Well,
whatever. But if you say that, then you better talk to your negotiating committee, because you're gonna pay people if you're gonna keep them after for 2 hours. So you better get with them and figure that out then.
And a lot of school, like there was a school at the principal meeting last week, they do early outs every week, every Wednesday. It's in Century Code that you can
Yeah,
do so many professional development days, and they recommend late starts or early outs for that
For that.
reason, so it's not a
And
full
yes,
day out.
we did do full days before, which maybe was more convenient. People still had to find daycare. The problem was, for some of this, it's not full day material either for that.
And then looping
Whereas
back around and
it's
checking
worthy
in.
of 2 hours. And then I think the part of the beef was before, which I totally get what the board is, we're taking PD days, but teachers aren't doing PD day for the whole day. So why are we doing it for that? And that's why I think we're trying to make this PD time worthwhile and
Efficient,
meaningful
yes.
for everybody involved in it. And yes, I get your thing about how
Well,
it
it's
is, can be
justifying
inconvenient.
why it's
Yeah.
needed. I mean,
Yeah.
It's
there's
very-
a real reason to wanna get the high school and elementary together. And if that's the
Yeah.
only time that you can do it, that makes a lot of sense right there to me. A lot
Yeah.
of these other parents aren't gonna know that. They're just gonna go, boy, the school doesn't care as much about us as they do their own time.
Yeah.
And so being able to explain that helps.
We're angry that we don't get that time with them too, there's never enough time.
So were you planning on 1 day for this training and we went to 2, or what were you gonna take away from the 12th? Or I'm just curious what
Well,
got switched?
Well, the
I know you
thing
need an
is
extra day
with
here.
Mr. Lockenby new, like, we would love to have everything set out in stone, but what happened last year was that we had things planned, and then we weren't able to include anything, we had to add a late start because of Cognia
Right,
stuff.
yes.
And so we left some of the end ones open.
Gotcha.
But then when Mr. Locken and I went to the training, we kind of looked at each other and were like, it doesn't make any sense to wait until the end of the year to
Well,
go
yeah.
through this with teachers
And we have new teachers that need their first evaluation
before,
Yes.
before
yes.
December, you know.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we need to get this stuff
I guess,
rolling in time.
but you were planning on one, and you're just looking now for two of
Yeah,
those, right?
and we wanted to move it earlier in the year.
Well-
Right,
So we,
or not, that's, I just.
that's
Yeah.
kind of the whole thing, is moving it earlier.
When
Earlier,
we,
yeah.
when we met and planned, and per recommendation of the presenter in Grand Forks, that you need at least a follow-up day, because they'll go through and they'll prioritize elements, then we'll go through as an admin team and look at how that meets our strategic plan and what we're doing in our district. And then we come back and do, you know, what did they call them again? Like mini studies.
Oh, micro studies.
Micro studies
Okay.
on those elements as a
Yeah.
group.
Because then they'll know, you know, when we determine our priorities for what we want to see from our teachers and what our teachers think we need to focus on, then we'll work through how they can reach those goals.
How does that look at Barnes County North and not necessarily through the
Yep.
whole Marzano framework?
Okay.
Does that answer your 2 days question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we would have totally tried to fit it into one day,
Yeah.
but he recommended that follow-up
Yeah,
day.
no, makes sense. We had a motion, did we have a second?
Yes, Jen
Okay.
and Cody.
Okay, roll call,
Eric,
Yes.
Mike,
yes.
Cody,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
DJ,
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
The CD that's maturing, Lindsay, you
Yep,
wanna touch
so
base
the
on
one
that?
in the general fund at, Bank Forward that we did last spring matures on October 24th. And so Kara sent me over some options. Mr. Curry and I talked about it, and we think that we would do it for 12 months this time at 4.1%. If the board approved that, the other options were 6 months at 4.35 and 24 months at 3.85.
The recommendation is 1 year at 4 point.
Yep.
Why 1 year at less interest than 6 months at
Because
higher?
interest is probably gonna go down again in 6 months.
It's trending down.
Blame the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it, just making
Yeah.
sure I wanted to understand.
We would need a motion for
Motion to
that
renew-
recommendation, or?
Motion to renew the CD at 1 year at 4.1% at Bank Forward.
I'll second that.
Second by Cody. Roll call when you're ready.
Mike,
Yes.
DJ,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Cody,
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes. Did I need to clarify signers on that motion?
No.
Okay.
Okay, we added was just a discussion, and we've talked about it different times, is, does the board look and wanting to change the amount of members on the school board? And we would research that, it's just discussion. Do you want,
Clarify, the board cannot do this.
Depends who you
depends on
ask.
who you talk to.
District?
When
We're gonna
I-
research it a
When I
little
called
bit.
School Boards Association, I got an answer because we are a reorganized school district that there might be some possibilities for the board to do something.
When I called, I said, you gotta get a petition. But,
What I, what I researched.
What you read in Century Code is different than what I was told, and
Okay.
I don't know.
and all we're asking is it an option we want to pursue to change the number on the board? It's not that we're doing it anyway, is it, what is the thought?
If the board has
'Cause
the
if nobody
ability
wants
to
to
do
change
do we
it, we're
want
not gonna
to work
pursue it.
towards that?
I think it's definitely something that should be looked into.
Okay. Does anybody have a thought not to look at, I mean, we're gonna research it, if it's an option, if not, it just goes away.
The only opposite side to that would be, and I'm totally fine with that too, is if you have people that want to participate in the process, and we have people that we have to fill the positions, I don't wanna restrict anybody's ability by taking the number from 9 to whatever. The
Whatever.
lowest we can go is 5.
It has
Five,
to
it's
be
gotta be
or
5, 7, or
It has
9.
5, 7, or 9.
Yep.
9 is the biggest you can, and we are the biggest we can.
Yes.
But we just wanna make sure we're not trying to exclude people that
Mhm.
desire to be part of it in this conversation. Cause
Yeah.
right now it's not an economics thing because nobody's getting paid anything.
Right.
But,
Well, my
but I
comment on
agree,
that would
I
be
agree
the
that,
policies or the committees work well now with
They
this
do.
number of people. Having committees that function efficiently and make a board work much, much better. But there's an awful lot of discussion that as a board member, I am not included in. And when I question a lot of those things that are brought forth, there's a lot of looks and a lot of annoyance because it's being talked about in committee. I could care less if you discussed it for hours in committee and I wasn't
Right.
there. If I got a vote on it, I wanna hear the discussion.
I agree with that.
Yep.
Yep, yes.
I do have one thing, because it is available to discuss. When you get your committee reports that what was reviewed, you can ask questions about things to other people. You can't make motions, you can't lobby or anything like that, but
But when that packet
can
comes out, it's
ask.
like from bill list to anything else, if you have a question, ask about the bill, ask about who's,
you can reach out
reach out to that.
and
yeah.
ask. Don't ever be afraid to communicate
Right.
with each other. Obviously, it's just conversation,
Yeah.
but don't be afraid to talk to each other either.
Yeah, and that's why when it was asked by one of the board members last year to include the committee reports minutes in the packet,
Yep.
that's why they're in there, so that everybody can read those, so that when we get to that point, if there are questions, to make sure that people are asking those questions when we
Right.
get to
Right.
those reports.
But it's
Yes.
very, very valid what
Yep.
Eric is saying.
Would it also be beneficial, I'm just throwing this out, that when committees are going, that we would get, this committee's gonna happen and this is the topic that's talked about? If somebody could say, Jennifer on policy, and these policies we're gonna talk about, I have it,
Well, it's public,
But
it's
it is-
publicly out there.
are the agendas,
Yes,
We post them,
they're all
they're
posted.
posted, okay,
Yeah, and the meetings you put on the master calendar.
on the master calendar?
But if
okay.
you're not actively looking
If
at
you're
it,
not
you see
actively
what you
looking
would
at it.
miss.
Right.
because there's committee meetings that pop up within 2-3 days of when
Yeah.
they happen.
Right.
Sometimes, and we're fine with meeting code and whatever else, but if you haven't looked within that, you're going to miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess
I
this,
think we should ask our people though too. I think it's a community conversation, not just a school board conversation.
It would be asked by a vote, it would go to a vote.
Yeah, it would have to be.
Right, but
But
you just said the conversation right now and it should
the
be.
conversation now is, do we
We
wanna
should
do
be
some
asking
research so we got
our
the answers of the
community, yeah.
process that we
Yeah.
need?
I think we do.
But there's definitely not that many people knocking the door down to get on the board either, as we saw in the last few
Right,
elections as well.
Right,
and it was prior to this past board election, there was a couple people that came in and asked, what do we have to do
right.
to reduce the number
Well,
of board
and
members?
They wanted to do it for like
Right,
the
they want
past
to do it for
election,
that,
and it's like, well,
like
this
right
is
then,
literally
it's
like
no,
May 30th or
not how
whatever,
that
like.
works, but.
yeah. So if you
think it
wanna,
was-
we can come and get some answers in a process, if that's, if the board intends that to happen, we can get some research and find out what the process would be. At least we
Doesn't
have
hurt to
answers.
have the information.
Okay,
Who's gonna find out? I've already tried, Mike's tried.
I've done the Century Code research.
So,
before
we're gonna
today.
talk to
But
the
you
ones we
can't-
talked before and get them together
Yeah.
in one room.
Century Code, because we're reorganized, might change the whole process.
Right.
Because of the reorganization, so, yeah, now it'll be, I'm sure, my turn
I
to
thought
see who I
though-
get at School Board Association.
Yes,
I thought that when it reorged, it was 3 from each.
Yes.
And when they got rid of the 3 from each, you went back into regular rule now.
that's how, one interpretation of that is, yes. But we're going out to convention in a week or so and have that conversation
But,
also.
but if it's the wishes of everybody, I'll try to find out hopefully sooner.
Yep.
I think, like Eric says, if somebody outside of the group wants it, then we at least have it.
As it's
Yeah.
stated
We're not
on here,
afraid
it's
of it.
just right now discussion.
Discussion, okay. So we'll move on, Family Connection, Michelle isn't here, Cheyenne Valley, Career and Tech, basically, was basically on building last month. We talked a little bit about staffing but more of everything was on building. Concrete, I was up there today, they're pouring the floors for the new classrooms, the curb and gutters forming up today. They've got the footings, did they pour today? If they're not poured today, they'll be tomorrow footing for the construction shop. So if you go by the construction foreman, we're a week behind here and 8 days ahead over there, so we're basically on schedule. If you want to swing by, take a look, but we really didn't, our meeting was very short, we didn't really have nothing else really to roll over this month. Just starting to pay bills. Special ed,
The highlights were in there. We had a long, quite a lengthy discussion just on behavioral health and what we can do within our unit moving forward on trying to help schools with that issue.
nothing else, we're adjourned, and we're up to November 6th
7,
at 7 o'clock.
So it's November 6th, not 13th.
It's 7th or 6th?
7 PM.
at 7 PM, yeah.
Mr. Curry will get that self-evaluation
I'm
out,
like,
and back to me by
Quick turnaround time.